Get ready for another episode of The Awake Space. I'm Lori Rivers, your host. And this is where you come for inspiration to help you with your aspirations and get some of the most important astrological information you can find on the internet to make sure you're up to date with the latest going-ons up there, because as above, so below. Hey, so we are now post-solar eclipse, the one in Gemini anyway, the new moon, and the energy will ring out for a couple of days really strong, and you'll see the impact of it over the next 6 months or so. It actually goes on longer than that, but we'll talk about that later. It's feeling pretty good here. It was a lot of energy being released ahead of the eclipse. I don't know about you, but lots of people got a hold of me really with some extra unfolding or awakening symptoms. Some people call that ascension sickness. I don't know. I don't really like the terms ascension because it makes it sound like we're going to float off planet Earth, and that's really not the point. I like the term initiation better. And besides being an astrologer, I'm a lifelong metaphysician. I thought we'd talk about the awakening or unfolding or initiation process in this episode, because we really are living in a time where that is happening more and more and more and more. And eclipses are often windows of opportunity for growth. And you're going to kind of grow one way or another, or be faced with situations that kind of force you to grow. And you can maximize it by surfing the energy, or you can make it rough on yourself by resisting the energy. One way or another, you're going forward. So that's what's kind of up on deck. If you're a Cancerian or a Capricorn or an Aries or Libra, you'll probably enjoy tomorrow, at least by evening, a lot more than you have the last few days or a couple of weeks, because Mars is shifting out of Cancer and into Leo. Now, normally, if Mars is hanging out in your sign or opposing your sign, there's usually some energy involved that's relatively beneficial. But it's been opposing Pluto and squaring off with any Aries or Libra placements. And that is uncomfortable. I have a Cancer sun and a Libra moon, and I'm not going to lie, I mean, it hasn't been horrible, but it has been rapid shifts, and I really am thankful that I spent, 35 years of my life actively studying metaphysics, because I know what to do. And I was thinking today when I was driving home from the mall, I had this impulse to go to the mall. I hate malls. But I found the coolest sunflower pants. I call them happy pants. So like my inner self, my inner being was just like, hey, if there's happy pants, you need to go find them. It was like a little treasure hunt. But anyway, it's whatever it takes. If it's happy pants, it's happy pants. So anyway, this was an extraordinary amount of energy moving through. So for you cardinal signs, you will feel more release and relief, especially for those that are about 20 degrees to 29 degrees. You'll feel a lot better. Pluto's still in the later degrees, so it's still going to be pressure. But Mars won't be egging it on as much. It'll be moving into Leo, and that's tomorrow, June 11th. For those of you who have fixed planets or fixed placements in your chart, don't worry too much about the Mars activity. There'll be a few days coming, probably end of the month, where it'll feel a little intense, but it's not It's not the same. It's different energy. And I'll be giving updates about that. So don't worry about it. Just kind of enjoy it in the earlier degrees. And Venus meets up with Mars on June 27th after Mercury goes direct. So it's probably going to be kind of a fun summer. There's going to be some fun energy. We have to remember that Saturn is retrograde and consequences will come up quick. And eventually Mars and Venus both will be opposing Saturn and squaring off with Uranus. So keep in mind, there will be interesting events when that happens. And again, as we get closer to that, I'll talk about it. And I write about it on Patreon. So remember, for tips and hints on how to deal with this energy, go to patreon.com/The Awake Space. And I call it The Awake Space because it's not just astrology. Yes, I'm Astro Lori. Yes, that's the one really tangible thing I can show you is astrology. But again, I've been a metaphysician for 35 years. And what are metaphysics? It's studying the use of energy. Some people use physical objects. You notice I'm always wearing rings. You sometimes don't see the other stones that are on my person. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Since my Venus has been nicely calibrated by the eclipse, my sense of humor is up. I have kind of a dark sense of humor because my Venus in Gemini is in the 8th house. But I'll talk about what my best friend and I talked about last night. It was pretty funny. Things you hear from advanced metaphysicians could be pretty funny. So anyway, that's what we've got going on. You should be feeling a release of pressure regardless, even if you're a Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, or Libra. Today with the moon being new, that pressure should be released and it's a little bit lighter feeling today. Hopefully. I'll be writing again on Patreon tonight for the moon in Cancer forecast. That's going to be a little tense. Remember, every time the moon is in Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, until Pluto shifts into Aquarius, those are going to be fairly intense happenings. Just globally. So again, you're getting more opportunity, cardinal signs looking at you. You're getting more opportunity to release the things that are holding you back. And I think that's what I'm going to talk about in the next segment. We're going to talk about what does it mean to resist and what does it mean to release, and what are some things you can do to navigate this energy a little bit better. And remember, for a lot more detail, you can head over to Patreon, and because I'm always writing about this stuff there. So, I see a lot of people, and I hear a lot of people, and actually I work with a lot of people, and there is often, as you go through an awakening or an unfolding, there tends to be quite a bit of drama. And it's easy from my perspective to look at it and go, oh, that's drama. But if I go back 20 years, I was just as dramatic, because it is mind-bending to have your entire reality blown. And now, I was born awake, but I had further initiations, because you're not just awake. It's just like waking up in the morning. There's other stuff you've got to do in your day, and that's what the initiatory process is. And so it's just like growing up. Things are different from when you're 3 to when you're 5 to when you're 8 to when you're 15 to when you're 25 to when you're 35 to when you're 40 to when you're 50 and beyond. You don't see the world through the same lens. So what makes these awakenings uncomfortable is our resistance to the process. It isn't the awakening itself. It's resisting letting go of old relationships, old ideas, old perceptions, beliefs, you know, beliefs about ourselves, even if they're negative. It's tough, you know. So I had quite a few emergency coaching sessions this week where people really felt like, oh crap, I'm going crazy. And they were arguing for their former reality. A lot of people do that. They'll argue for their former reality. And it's kind of silly. You know, you were taught somewhat erroneous information about what life is supposed to be. I want you to take a second and ask yourself, how natural is it for a human being to spend the majority of their waking hours in a cubicle or sitting or away from their families, you know? There's nothing natural about that at all. There's nothing in our nature that makes us want to do that. We have to be trained into it, and that's what school is for. And it's called socialization. And we get told and rewarded for certain behaviors and punished for others. And a lot of the punishment we get in school growing up is for being ourselves. And so as you awaken and you come more and more, what are you awakening to? Your freaking self, your divine nature, your connection to all that is. And you've been punished for that when you're little, right? Kids are pretty connected in general until about 8 in school. If you look at little ones, their eyes are bright and shiny. By the time you get to about 3rd grade, the eyes aren't as shiny anymore. I remember watching that happen when my kids were little, and I would volunteer at the school, and I ended up pulling my kids, you know, because I watched the joy kind of be driven out of the children. I thought, that's just not cool. That's not what life is about. And everything you were taught was normal that's going away isn't normal. It's not normal. It's not even logical. When people realize that flowers and trees have their own consciousness, you know, they're like, well, that's crazy talk. I'm talking to trees and flowers and birds and animals. And I'm like, yeah, go look at every primitive culture on the planet, and they'd look at you and go, of course you do. Of course you do. So is it really a primitive culture, or is it an aligned culture? Think about that for a second. It's not crazy. Now you feel alone in it because you're afraid people are going to think you're crazy and you're breaking social rules and you got punished for being like this as a kid. So you isolate yourself and then you have weirder experiences. And somewhere along the line, hopefully you find someone like myself or another teacher who can help you out and let you know, no, you're not crazy. Here's how you feel into what is true for you and what isn't true for you. And hopefully those teachers challenge you to take a look at your own perceptions and to see, why do you believe what you believe? Why do you believe this is crazy? Why do you think you have to have certain outcomes in life to be happy? Why do you think this is the only way you can live your life? You know, and be like, so what makes you think that? Right now, with Mercury retrograde, and we're in the middle of it, so it's kind of the most intense part of it. Right now is the time to ask yourself these very questions. Why do I believe what I believe? We've got Jupiter in Pisces. Everybody is up in everybody else's grill about beliefs, which, by the way, as a spiritual person, you don't ever need to evangelize your beliefs to anybody else. You don't need everybody else to agree with you. You can find kindred spirits. You can find people to walk along the path with. And the more advanced you get, the more you'll realize some people are with us for a little while. Some people are with us for a long while. I keep harping on about relationships. And I think that's because people are always wanting relationship readings, and I don't like doing them, and thus I don't. I do parent-child relationship readings because that's important. But this focus on romance, please, ladies, gentlemen, thems, you are not defined. You are not defined by your relationship status. Your value is not attached to your relationship status. That is an old social control mechanism. If you were going to let go of one thing heading into summer, let that shit go. Find your value and your power, and you will attract people for either a short walk together or a long run together. You could get best friends and platonic friends and best friends with benefits, and you might even find that partner you've been looking for. But you got to be in your best vibrations to get the best kind of partner. Otherwise, you're repeating the same old shit. Different faces, same script. Why would you do that? Why are you doing it to yourself? And if you're going through an awakening, now is the time to let that shit go. And how do you let that shit go? It's actually a lot simpler than you think. You don't have to dive deep and find the root cause. You don't have to know anything. You relax your body. You find the tension patterns in your body and you relax those. Now, some people have really old established tension patterns, okay? So massage. You can get a massage. Take a deep Epsom salt soak, like really soak properly. Just soak it out. If you can get acupuncture, I'm a firm proponent of it. There's lots of different modalities. Aromatherapy, reflexology. There are so many modalities to releasing tension. You can meditate if you want. If you're a patron, go to the Patreon and download the frickin' audio of the guided meditation. You know, that's in there. I put it was from the winter. So it was like January, I think. Go look at the old posts. Go find that audio where I guide you through releasing tension so you can access your higher guidance, your higher self, that part of you, that sacred self. It's there, willing and waiting and always talking, but you're not always listening. Don't beat yourself up for it. There's no blame to it. Nobody's impatient with you except yourself. Stop it. Be gentle on yourself. And if you want to know more strategies for dealing with the eclipse energy, because we'll be dealing with it for a while, go to my YouTube channel. I'll put the link here in the description, but go to the YouTube channel. And because I uploaded my live stream from TikTok up there, there's a lot of really good information, and I promise, once I'm not slammed with readings, I'll get the YouTube started. Speaking of readings, if you are really, really struggling right now, it might be worth it to get some direction, okay? And that can happen through an astrological reading. It can happen through a spiritual coaching session. Maybe you've got a lot of blocks and you need help releasing them. That's a specialty of mine. I help you learn how to release them yourself. I'm not plucking anything from you. You're releasing the blocks yourself. I just create a safe container and energy you can tune to help you release. It's really just having a safe space. So if you want to do that, I'll put the link in my bio for bookings as well. I'm always willing to help. I like serving you guys. That's my job. It's my cosmic job, is to help people come into themselves. And the more of us who are consciously, deliberately living our lives, the better off this planet is. And boy, the wind just punctuated that sentence. Nature does that sometimes. It's just a nice affirmation. So, that's it. We're going to do patron shout-outs. Patron shout-outs is up next. Okay, it's time for our patron shout out. I want to thank all my patrons. This is what keeps this show on the road, the podcast, the TikTok, the blog, the readings, everything. Thank you so much. Your support means the world to me, and it's my pleasure and honor to give you really good information you can use. So we've got Jasmine and Chelsea, Carrie. Let's see. We've got in the Discord, it's been really active. Let me go there. We've got Magic. We've got ICTYM. We've got Nancy, Sister Luck, Hannah, and Yaz. These are all people that are super active in the Discord, and the Momerator, which is super fun. We've got the Momerator, Elwyn the Witch's other half, and she's also so much fun. We've got a recipe, by the way, in the Discord that I just put up for an almond flour shortbread with a chocolate topping. And because somebody couldn't have gluten, and I have made some gluten-free recipes for friends who could not have gluten but wanted shortbread. I'm that kind of Cancerian. So that is now in the social off-topic thread in our Discord server. We also have the horoscope conversations and our awakening chat. So people who are going through awakenings can actually have a safe space to talk about it. That's one of the advantages people get as patrons. Once again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for supporting the process. So a couple of people have reached out and says, hey, what happens in an astrology reading? They've never had one. And so I thought I'd do a little bit here in this last segment and talk about what happens in an astrology reading, or what should happen in an astrology reading, just so you know the difference. When you come to me for an astrology reading, I actually... for the personality readings, if you go to my website, you'll see that. I walk you through your chart. So I go house by house, and we look at the placements. I do dispositorships, and I help make sense of your past and your present and any current, a little bit of current transits, if something's really up for you. But in general, we're just exploring who you are. And so helping you get more in tune with who you are. I always ask the same question at the beginning of every session, and that's what brought you here. Everybody has a different reason. Most people are coming because they're trying to understand themselves, but some people have really specific ideas of why they're there. And that helps if somebody's thinking it's more like a psychic reading. I can be like, hey, I'm really intuitive, and this is how I use my intuition in these readings. Astrology is not an intuitive art. It is a field of study, and there's rules around it. And so you're getting that. The intuition comes in how I deliver the information, so because I can see everything. So as a trauma-informed astrologer, I'm doing my damnedest not to trigger anybody. Not every professional astrologer does that. A lot of people are really hell-bent on being right or showing off their knowledge, especially younger astrologers. And that's not great. You shouldn't ever have anybody tell you you're a hot mess, and you shouldn't ever hear that your chart is hard to read. Nobody has a hard chart to read if somebody knows how to do the astrological process and delineate a chart. So there's no such thing as a chart that is hard to read if an astrologer knows what they're doing. So those are just some red flags for you to know. Now, in the hidden treasures, I walk with you through understanding more spiritual events, understanding your gifts, understanding your purpose from a spiritual perspective. And we look at timing, we look at the past, we look at the present, we look at the future, and we work on some strategies going forward, especially in the realm of healing and releasing, gaining new perspectives. It's a very, very soothing reading, I would say. And then the career life path is we're looking at your physical walk in the world and integrating your spirituality and your physicality. That includes career, business. We look at timing of events. Sometimes I'll look out a couple months ahead. It depends on what's going on. If we're close to your birthday, we look at the solar return and give you kind of a bird's eye view of the year. So astrology is a very versatile and useful tool for self-understanding and timing events. And it's important that you work with an astrologer who really does know what they're doing. And that's why I'm giving you this information. So even if you're not working with me, at least here's some red flags when you're wanting to hire an astrologer. So, and if you want to book with me, it's pretty simple. You just go to my website and you book a session. These are very intense, as far as time. It's, we've got hour and a half sessions. It goes deep. Most people feel like there's been a fire hose of information, and that's why there's a recording so that you can refer to it. And then for touch-ups, a lot of times people take the spiritual coaching, So, and I'm getting a mentorship program together as well. I've been approached by a couple of people who want to be mentored as professional astrologers. And so I'm getting that together too. None of that's new stuff. It's just Mercury retrograde. So I'm picking up all the loose threads of ideas that I've had and written down to get going. So I look forward to seeing you on Discord. If you're a patron and you haven't joined, please do. If you're not a patron, well, you can join by clicking the link in the description here. If not, just go enjoy the videos on TikTok. I'm Lori Rivers, and I look forward to seeing you somewhere. Thanks much.